Have you ever wondered why happiness feels so far away even when you're doing everything right? You wake up, you try to stay positive, you push through the noise, but somewhere deep inside, you still feel that emptiness. It's like chasing sunlight through clouds that never seem to break. You're not alone. Every one of us is fighting an invisible battle between who we are and who we want to be, between what we feel and what we show the world. The truth is, happiness isn't handed to you. It's not waiting on the other side of a perfect life. It's built in the middle of chaos, through choices no one sees, the quiet moments when you decide to keep believing, to keep standing, even when your heart is tired. You see, happiness is not the reward for a life without pain. It's the strength to smile through the pain and say, this is not the end of me. We live in a world that teaches us to measure our joy by our circumstances. If things go well, we're happy. If they don't, we're broken. But that's not how real joy works. Real joy is not emotional convenience, it's spiritual power. It's the fire that refuses to go out, even when the wind is strong. It's the courage to say, I will not let this storm steal my peace. Because when everything around you shakes, the only thing that holds you together is what's inside you. Billygraham once said, mountaintops are for views and inspiration, but fruit grows in the valleys. Think about that. Growth doesn't happen when life is easy. It happens when life tests you, when you have every reason to give up, but you keep showing up anyway. That's when your roots dig deeper. That's when faith becomes real. That's when happiness stops being a feeling and becomes a foundation. Science tells us that gratitude can rewire the brain. When you focus on what's good, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, chemicals that make you feel alive, peaceful, fulfilled. Gratitude doesn't change what you see, it changes how you see it. Even in the darkest moments, if you can find one reason to be thankful, you've already shifted the direction of your life. Because happiness doesn't wait for perfection, it grows wherever you plant it. So ask yourself, what are you choosing today? Fear or faith? Complaints or gratitude? You can't always control what happens, but you can control what you magnify. You can choose to see hope in heartbreak, purpose in pain, peace in pressure. That's what separates the broken from the unbreakable. And here's the reward for staying. When you understand this truth, when you stop waiting for life to be easy and start finding joy in the struggle, you become unstoppable. You become someone who doesn't just survive hard days, but transforms through them. Someone who stops chasing happiness and starts creating it. Because happiness isn't found, it's forged. It's not a destination, it's a decision. A decision to rise, to trust, to smile, even when everything inside you says you can't. Stay with this message. Because by the end, you'll see that the strength you've been searching for isn't somewhere out there. It's been inside you all along, waiting for you to choose it. The way you see life shapes the way you live it. Pain can either be your prison or your teacher, and that choice belongs entirely to you. When hardship strikes, it's easy to see only what's missing, only what's been taken, but happiness begins when you start seeing what remains. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this moment trying to teach me? That shift in thinking is where transformation begins. Because pain is not just something to endure, it's something to learn from. It's the mirror that shows you who you truly are when the comfort disappears. Every obstacle carries two possibilities, suffering or strength. What determines which one wins is your perspective. When life hits hard, your mind naturally looks for escape, for someone to blame, for reasons to quit, but your spirit knows better. It knows that every wound has wisdom inside it, that the same storm that bends you also builds you. And when you start seeing your challenges through the lens of growth instead of loss, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a student of resilience. Billygraham once said, comfort and prosperity have never enriched the world as much as adversity has. It's in the struggle that greatness is born. You can't develop patience in peace. You can't discover courage without fear. And you can't find deep joy until you've walked through sorrow and realized it doesn't have the power to destroy you. The happiest people aren't the ones with easy lives. They're the ones who learned to look for light when everything went dark. They understand that happiness isn't about everything being perfect. It's about being grateful even when it's not. Science proves that your thoughts shape your emotional reality. When you dwell on loss, your brain strengthens neural pathways of pain and fear. But when you choose to focus on purpose, your brain starts building resilience. Gratitude and faith literally reshape your chemistry. That means every time you decide to find meaning in hardship, you're not just surviving emotionally. You're rewiring your mind for strength. You're teaching your brain to stay calm in chaos and hopeful in uncertainty. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about refusing to let pain blind you to beauty. Even in seasons of loss, something good remains, a lesson, a connection, a glimpse of grace. If you focus on what's left instead of what's lost, you open the door to peace. Because happiness doesn't come from control, it comes from clarity, from seeing the bigger picture. That maybe the struggle isn't punishment, but preparation. Maybe the delay isn't denial, but direction. Maybe this pain is shaping the strength you prayed for. So when life feels unfair, lift your eyes, look higher, look beyond what hurts. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Who can I become through this? That's how you turn pain into purpose. That's how you rise when everything tries to pull you down. The world will keep throwing challenges your way, but your perspective decides whether they break you or build you. If you can hold on to hope when it makes no sense, if you can keep faith alive when everything else falls apart, then happiness will no longer depend on your circumstances. It will live within you, unshakable, immovable, untouched by the storms outside. And that's when you finally see that the hardest seasons weren't there to destroy you. They were there to reveal you. Happiness isn't luck, it's discipline. It's not something you stumble into one day when everything finally aligns. It's something you build one deliberate choice at a time. The strongest people aren't those who never fall. They're the ones who train their minds to rise every time they do. You can't wait for happiness to appear. You must create it, even when you feel empty, even when life feels unfair. Because the truth is, you can't always control how you feel, but you can always control what you feed. Every morning, your mind wakes up hungry. It will feed on whatever you give it. Fear or faith, doubt or gratitude, stress or peace. And what you feed grows. If you feed your fears, they multiply. If you feed your faith, it expands. Discipline is choosing what deserves your focus. It's refusing to let temporary emotions dictate permanent outcomes. You don't need to feel strong to act strong. You just need to act, and your emotions will eventually follow your direction. Billygraham said, "The joy we seek is not in things, but in a person." Happiness is not found in possessions or outcomes. It's rooted in connection with purpose, with people, and with God. When your heart is anchored in something eternal, the storms of life lose their ability to shake you. You may bend, but you won't break. Because your peace doesn't come from what happens around you. It comes from what's happening within you. Science supports this truth. Studies on positive psychology show that daily gratitude, prayer, and self-reflect can rewire the brain's emotional pathways. When you consistently focus on thankfulness, you strengthen the parts of your brain that regulate emotion, boost serotonin, and reduce anxiety. It's not magic, it's mental conditioning. Just like a muscle, happiness grows with repetition. Every time you choose gratitude over negativity, you're training your mind to see possibility instead of limitation. But this discipline requires patience. You can't plant a seed today and expect a garden tomorrow. Growth takes time, so does peace. You have to show up every day, water your spirit, nurture your mindset, and trust the process even when you see no results. Happiness is built through the small, unseen moments. The decision to pray when you're angry, to forgive when it's hard, to breathe when your thoughts race. Those moments may feel insignificant, but they shape the entire direction of your life. Your habits are your harvest. What you repeat, you become. The discipline of joy is not about denying your pain. It's about directing your focus. It's about refusing to let negativity become your default. When you wake up and choose peace, even for a few seconds, you're building strength. When you pause to be grateful, even in chaos, you're rewiring your reality. These small acts, repeated over time, turn survival into serenity. And that's where real power lives, in consistency, in doing what's right for your spirit, even when it's not easy for your emotions. You can't wait for motivation. You must move first. The feeling will follow, and the more you practice joy as a discipline, the more natural it becomes. One day, you'll look back and realize happiness was never something you had to chase. It was something you learned to create, one choice, one breath, one act of faith at a time. The more you practice joy, the more you'll realize how easily it can be stolen by comparison. Nothing drains peace faster than measuring your worth against someone else's highlight reel. You scroll through perfect images, hear about someone's success, and suddenly your own progress feels small. But the truth is, comparison blinds you to your own blessings. It makes you forget that your path was never meant to look like anyone else's. Your story has its own pace, its own rhythm, its own divine timing. And no amount of rushing or comparing will make it unfold faster than it's meant to. Billygraham once said, "Don't compare yourself with others. You may be better than someone else, but you will never be as good as you should be until you stop comparing and start becoming." That truth cuts deep because comparison distracts you from purpose. It makes you chase shadows instead of substance. It convinces you that happiness lives in someone else's hands when it has always been waiting in yours. Psychologists call it the comparison trap, a cognitive distortion where your mind fixates on other people's perceived success while discounting your own growth. It feeds insecurity, triggers self-doubt, and quietly destroys contentment. But you can break free from it by remembering one simple truth. Your journey is sacred. No one can live it for you. The timing of your blessings is not delayed, it's being prepared. Every closed door, every slow season, every unanswered prayer is working for your good, even when it doesn't feel like it. When you stop comparing, peace returns. You begin to see beauty in your process, strength in your pace, and meaning in your progress. You stop asking, "Why not me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" Because nothing kills joy faster than entitlement, and nothing grows joy faster than gratitude. Gratitude reminds you that you already have what you once prayed for. It silences envy and awakens appreciation. It shifts your focus from lack to abundance, from waiting to becoming. Social media has made it easy to forget that everyone struggles behind the scenes. No one posts their pain, their fears, their failures. You see the highlight, not the hardship. You see the smile, not the sleepless nights behind it. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see, including the people you compare yourself to. So instead of competing, start connecting. Instead of resenting, start rejoicing. Celebrate others, not because you feel less, but because their win doesn't take away yours. What's meant for you cannot be stolen, delayed, or denied. Happiness returns when you realize that your value is not measured in comparison to anyone. It's measured by your growth, your faith, your willingness to keep going. You were never created to blend in. You were made to stand out in your own way at your own time. And when you stop trying to run someone else's race, you finally have the energy to run your own with purpose. So protect your joy like treasure. Stop looking sideways, look inward, look upward, and keep moving forward. The more you honor your unique path, the more peace you'll feel within it. Because happiness doesn't bloom in competition. It grows in contentment. And once you stop comparing, you'll see that everything you've been chasing has been quietly growing inside you all along. Peace doesn't come from control, it comes from surrender. The tighter you try to grip life, the more it slips through your fingers. The need to control everything, outcomes, people, timing, only leaves you exhausted. Real strength begins the moment you learn to let go. Not because you've given up, but because you've finally understood that some battles are not yours to fight. You can't force what isn't ready. You can't rush what God is still shaping. And you can't heal while holding on to what's breaking you. Billygraham on. C said, "When we come to the end of ourselves, we come to the beginning of God." That's the power of surrender. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. It's the courage to stop pretending you're in control and trust that there's a higher plan at work, even when it's invisible. Sometimes life feels like it's falling apart, But maybe it's falling into place. Maybe the things you lost weren't punishment. They were preparation. The closed doors weren't rejection. They were redirection. You don't have to understand the whole story to trust that the author knows what he's doing. Psychologists call this radical acceptance, the ability to embrace what is, instead of resisting what you can't change. It's one of the strongest predictors of emotional resilience. When you stop fighting reality, you stop multiplying your pain. Acceptance doesn't mean you like what happened. It means you're choosing peace over resistance. It's saying, this is not what I planned, but I will still find purpose here. That mindset doesn't erase pain, but it removes its power to control you. Every time you surrender what you can't fix, you make space for peace to enter. The weight you've been carrying, the regret, the fear, the what-ifs, they don't define you. They only drain you. Let them go. You're not supposed to carry the entire world on your shoulders. You're supposed to walk through it with faith. Because peace isn't found in knowing how everything will work out. It's found in trusting that it will. There's a quiet strength in letting go. It's choosing stillness in a world that worships control. It's saying, I don't need to have all the answers to keep moving. The happiest people aren't those who have everything figured out. They're the ones who've learned to rest in uncertainty, to breathe even when they don't understand, to trust even when they can't see. That's where freedom lives. That's where happiness grows. Not in holding tighter, but in releasing what was never meant to stay. So stop fighting what's already happened. Stop replaying what you can't rewrite. There's beauty in surrender because it brings clarity. It creates room for new beginnings to unfold. The peace you've been searching for doesn't come after the storm. It comes when you stop resisting it. When you finally say, I don't know where this is going, but I know I'm not alone. You were never meant to control every chapter, just to trust the story. The moment you surrender, the fear begins to fade. The chaos loses its grip. And what's left is something quiet but unshakable. Peace, purpose, and a deeper kind of happiness that no storm can steal. When you finally let go of what you can't control, your heart becomes free to give again. True happiness begins when your focus shifts from what you can gain to what you can give. The greatest fulfillment doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from contribution. Every act of kindness, every moment spent lifting someone else, fills your life with meaning that success alone can never provide. You were created to make a difference, not to chase validation. The more you pour into others, the more your soul is filled with light that no darkness can overcome. Billygraham once said, the happiest people I know are those who lose themselves in the service of others. That truth cuts through the noise of self-centered living. Because we live in a culture that tells us to chase more money, more followers, more recognition, yet it's often those who have the most who still feel the emptiest. You can have everything the world calls valuable and still wake up feeling hollow inside. But when you start living for something beyond yourself, the emptiness begins to fade. Your heart finds purpose. Your pain finds meaning. Your joy becomes real. Psychologists call it the helper's high. When you serve others, your brain releases oxytocin and endorphins, chemicals that increase happiness, reduce stress, and deepen connection. Acts of generosity literally change your biology. They strengthen your emotional resilience and remind you that life's worth isn't measured in what you receive, but in what you give. Service doesn't just heal others. It heals you. It quiets the noise of self-doubt and replaces it with peace. Sometimes we think we need to have everything together before we can help someone else, but that's not true. You don't have to be whole to make a difference. You just have to be willing. The world doesn't need your perfection. It needs your compassion. It needs your time, your patience, your encouragement, your listening ear. Every small act of kindness ripples further than you can imagine. A single word of hope can change a life. A simple gesture of love can remind someone they still matter. When you lift others, you rise too. When you help someone else find strength, you rediscover your own. Because serving others pulls you out of the prison of self-focus. It reminds you that even in your pain, you still have something valuable to give. It transforms loneliness into connection and hardship into healing. The more you serve, the less you worry about what you lack, because you start to see that you've always had enough to give. If your heart feels heavy, serve. If you feel lost, give. If you feel unseen, love someone else deeply. Happiness grows in the soil of selflessness. The more you pour into others, the more grace fills the spaces within you. It's not about being noticed, it's about being useful. Because when you make others happy, you discover a joy that lasts. The kind of joy that doesn't fade when circumstances change. Your purpose isn't found in what you achieve, but in what you share. Every act of kindness is a seed of happy. Nests planted in someone else's life, and those seeds always return to you multiplied. You were made to give, to love, to lift. And when you do, you'll find that the peace you've been chasing was never lost. It was simply waiting for you in the heart of service. Every day you wake up, you're faced with a choice: to stay stuck in what hurts or to rise above it. Life will always offer reasons to give up, to complain, to retreat into bitterness. But happiness doesn't grow in bitterness, it grows in courage. The courage to keep believing that something good can still come from what tried to break you. The courage to keep showing up when it would be easier to disappear. The courage to choose hope when despair whispers that it's pointless. That choice, the one you make in silence, when no one's watching, that's where strength is born. Billy Graham's life was a living reminder that true happiness isn't about having a perfect story. It's about trusting a perfect God. He faced storms, criticism, doubt, and pain, yet his peace never wavered because his joy was anchored in faith, not circumstance. That's what makes happiness unshakable. When it's rooted in something eternal, no loss, no failure, no disappointment can destroy it. Faith doesn't always remove the pain, but it gives the pain purpose. It turns every tear into a seed of transformation. Psychology echoes this truth. Studies on resilience show that people who live with hope, gratitude, and belief in something greater than themselves recover faster from adversity and experience deeper emotional peace. Faith rewires the nervous system for calm. It activates the same parts of the brain associated with joy and confidence. That's not coincidence, it's design. You were built to find peace not in control, but in connection. With something higher, something lasting. Something that reminds you you're never walking out. 1. Every challenge you've faced has been shaping you for this moment. Every season of waiting, every unanswered prayer, every disappointment, none of it was wasted. You were being strengthened in silence, refined through resistance, molded into someone who can stand firm no matter what life throws at you. And that's the beauty of real happiness. It's not fragile. It doesn't shatter when life gets hard. It deepens, it matures. It becomes a quiet, unbreakable strength that carries you through anything. Happiness is not about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about refusing to let it define you. You may have been hurt, but you are not your hurt. You may have been broken, but you are not your brokenness. Every scar on your heart is proof that you've survived battles that others never saw. And every time you choose faith over fear, you reclaim a part of yourself that pain tried to steal. That's victory. That's power. That's happiness in its truest form. Peace in the middle of the storm. So when you wake up tomorrow, choose to rise. Not because everything is easy, but because you were made to overcome. Choose to believe that the same God who carried you through the past will carry you through what's ahead. Choose to smile, to breathe, to keep walking, even when it hurts. Because one day you'll look back and realize that was the moment everything changed. Not when life got easier, but when you got stronger. Push yourself to be happy. Not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer controlled by imperfection. Keep your heart open, your faith strong, and your hope alive. You've already come this far, and the best is still ahead. Happiness is a choice, and every day you are given the power to choose it. It doesn't matter what yesterday looked like, how heavy your burdens feel, or how impossible the future seems. Each morning is a blank page, and why? Hold the pen. You can write despair, or you can write hope. You can let fear dictate your story, or you can let faith guide your steps. The most powerful people are not those who avoid hardship. They are the ones who decide to rise despite it. They understand that life will always test them, but their response determines their destiny. Billygraham said, "The Christian life is not a constant high. I have my moments of deep discouragement, but I have learned to go to God with them. That's the essence of true happiness. It's not the absence of pain, it's the ability to navigate it with courage, trust, and perspective. Your joy doesn't come from circumstance. It comes from knowing that you are never alone, that every struggle has a purpose, and that every dark night carries the seeds of a brighter dawn." Science proves that mindset shapes reality. The way you interpret your circumstances affects not just your mood, but your physical health, your resilience, and even your ability to create opportunities. Optimism is not naive. It is a deliberate, practiced lens that allows you to see potential where others see only obstacles. Gratitude, forgiveness, and faith literally rewire your brain, building neural pathways for resilience and emotional strength. That means every time you consciously choose hope over despair, you are training yourself to withstand future storms with grace. Your happiness is not something you wait for. It is something you cultivate. It is found in small, deliberate actions, in the choice to forgive when resentment whispers, to speak kindness when anger rises, to be present when distraction calls. Each act strengthens your spirit. Each decision reclaims power you may have thought lost. You become the master of your own emotional climate. You stop letting life dictate your peace, and you start shaping it from within. Even when the world feels chaotic, even when your heart aches, you have the capacity to rise above. The obstacles will always be there, but the strength to overcome them is already inside you. Happiness is not fragile. It is forged in the crucible of challenge. The moment you stop relying on circumstances to dictate your joy, you discover an unshakable peace. You discover that no failure, no rejection, no hardship can erase the value of your soul or the hope that carries you forward. So choose today to rise above. Choose faith over fear, gratitude over bitterness, love over resentment. Smile not because everything is perfect, but because you are learning to be unbreakable. Stand tall in the middle of storms. Walk confidently through uncertainty and carry hope in the spaces where despair once lived. Push yourself to be happy, not for the world to see, not for validation, but for yourself. For the unshakable peace that comes from knowing you are alive, you are capable, and you are more powerful than any circumstance. Let this be the moment you claim your joy, the moment you decide that your happiness is no longer optional. It is yours, and it has always been waiting for you to choose it. Perfect. The full first 6 sections are now complete, each maintaining the emotional intensity, psychology-driven motivation, and seamless flow for a faceless voiceover script. If you want, I can now write the final 7th section, bringing the script to a powerful, unforgettable conclusion that leaves the audience inspired, uplifted, and ready to take action. This last section will tie together all the previous messages into a strong call to internal transformation and enduring happiness. Happiness is not a reward for surviving life. It is a declaration that you will not be defeated by it. Every challenge, every setback, every disappointment has been preparing you for this very moment, the moment you decide to rise, not just to endure, but to thrive. You have already carried burdens that felt impossible, walked through storms that seemed endless, and faced nights so dark you doubted the dawn would ever come. And yet, here you are, still standing, still breathing, still capable of choosing joy. That is proof of your strength, your resilience, and your capacity for transformation. Billygraham reminded us, mountains are for views and inspiration, but fruit grows in the valleys. Your struggles have been your valleys. They have shaped you, strengthened you, and prepared you to bear fruit that others will see and feel. Every moment of pain has been a teacher, every tear a seed, every act of faith a step closer to the happiness that is waiting for you. Real joy does not come from avoiding difficulty. It comes from facing it with courage and refusing to let it define you. Your life is not measured by the storms you encounter, but by how you rise above them. Science proves that mindset determines not just how you feel, but how you act, how resilient you are, and even how your body responds to stress. Optimism and gratitude strengthen neural pathways, build emotional endurance, and create a habit of hope. Every time you consciously choose faith over fear, kindness over anger, and courage over surrender, you are rewiring your brain for lasting happiness. You are becoming unstoppable. Do not wait for external circumstances to give you permission to be joyful. Do not let setbacks convince you that your peace is conditional. Happiness is cultivated in the soil of discipline, gratitude, and surrender. It grows when you choose to forgive, when you serve, when you give without expectation, and when you trust what you cannot see. It thrives in the moments when you decide to rise above resentment, bitterness, and fear. That is how joy becomes unshakable. That is how it becomes yours. Every step you take toward hope, every act of faith, every choice to see light in darkness strengthens a foundation that cannot be shaken. You have been walking this path longer than you realize, building a resilience that no disappointment can undo. Your courage has been silently accumulating, your endurance quietly growing, and now it is time to claim what has always been yours: peace, purpose, and the freedom to be truly happy. Push yourself to be happy, not because life is easy, but because you are strong. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are enough. Not because the world will recognize it, but because your soul deserves it. Smile even when your heart aches. Step forward even when the path is unclear. Keep faith alive even when doubt whispers lies. The power to rise above every hardship, to choose joy in every circumstance, and to create a life of purpose has always been inside you. This is your moment. Choose happiness. Choose hope. Choose courage. Choose to rise, to keep moving, to keep believing, and to keep shining even when it feels impossible. You are stronger than your struggles, braver than your fears, and more capable than you've ever known. Let this truth sink in. The happiness you've been seeking has not been lost. It has been waiting for you all along. And today, you claim it.